The Marching Roundtable's appearance on tour with the Mandarins was made possible by Fruhoff Uniforms, found at fruhoff.com. Hey everybody, this is Tim Hinton. Thanks for watching from Marching Roundtable and Marching Arts Education. I am so excited to talk to these three really smart and creative gentlemen from the Mandarins. So Mario Ramirez, Mario, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm good. Thank you for stopping. I know you're on the road. Thank you for stopping everything to have this conversation. I really appreciate it. We'll try not to take too much of your time today. I know you need to get back to the core. Ike Jackson, how are you, sir?
Hey, I'm rocking and rolling, man, every day.
All right, very good. And Key, how are you, sir?
Doing great. It's
Wonderful.
summertime. We're working hard.
Absolutely. So I saw the core in San Antonio. I was knocked out by it. Here's what I want to say first off. What I think is super cool is that you guys look and feel like nobody else. Like you're doing something really unique. And I think anytime I can see that in the world of drum corps, it's like you don't look like anybody else. You know, the atmosphere is completely different, kind of challenging. You know, like I was a little nervous watching the show, and I think that's what you're going for. So first of all, I just want to say congratulations for accomplishing that. And I think it's awesome that you're sort of bringing that to the drum corps arena. Is that intentional? Like we want to look unique and be different?
Absolutely. You know, that's since day one we had to establish and build a look for the Mandarins. You know, we had to make them look different and apart from any other drum corps. So we definitely do strive for that and give them their own identity.
Yeah, and Mandarins have been around for a while, and it was another thing where Mario and I had sat down, and then Key had talked to me originally when Key had brought me in. He's like, "Hey, we need to just create something new for the organization." And so in bringing in Mario, and me and Mario talked, it was like, how do we keep it looking like the Mandarins, but not be like the Mandarins, and Mario sat down and started creating some things from a look standpoint, and he and I kind of went through that, and then me and Key started talking about, what does it sound like, and from that process, it's just kind of grown from there, and it has kind of evolved into something I feel absolutely pretty unique.
Well, I think you've totally accomplished it. And so to me, that is like the big takeaway. Like I sat through that whole day of all those performances in San Antonio, and there were certain shows that were really like not like anybody else. And certainly because I also like the fact that you're sort of pushing some boundaries, challenging the activity. I think it's great to be a little bit disruptive. So I also love that you're doing that. So I also want to say that I followed the story completely. Like I knew where you were taking me. I was underground. I saw the guy come in with the lamp. I followed the whole thing. Somehow, even though you have a lot going on, I knew where to look. So I also think that's a huge accomplishment. But it all made sense to me on that first viewing. So that's another hats off to you guys.
Oh, thanks. We just wish that you were in the box giving some numbers, man. It'd be great.
Nobody wants that. I hear that a lot as I rave about shows, but no, I totally get that. So can we talk about the process? Am I right that you sort of came up with this story and then you went to Key and you guys sort of made the soundtrack to go with it? Is that right?
Yeah.
So can you talk about that? I think that's interesting.
Yeah, me and Mario, we come up with zany ideas all the time, be it for indoor color guard or percussion. And it's cool because this whole thing kind of originated from a dumb idea that I had of wanting to do one idea, and Mario's like, absolutely not, we can't do that idea. And I'm like, well, what are we gonna do? And it was kind of a marriage of the two ideas, and then kind of became a little bit more of Mario's idea. And then I was able to kind of put together what I felt like the scenery and the feel and things were, as Mario was putting together the look and the artistic side of how that stuff was going to come together. And then obviously Key, it's funny because me and Key have a very unique way of working where, I don't even know how he dissects what I'm singing, but I'll just start singing like parts and like then he's like, okay, got it, okay, and he orchestrates it, and it comes to life. Like it's just crazy. And then Mario looks at it, Mario's like, well, can you do this? And it is a collaborative idea, but I think it came from this place of we wanted to do one thing, it kind of morphed into something else, and then Mario had a lot of great ideas on how we could really bring it to life. And then through that, me and Key started pushing through what did we want it to sound like. And it became this thing that's very, I guess you could say, kind of different in the sense of how it kind of evolved.
I think what's interesting is people think that me and Ike are married. They're like, you guys are probably like a married couple, and we're not fighting. We're literally, that's how we talk to each other, and it's just the passion, But what's really cool is, no matter what we do back and forth, bickering or whatever it is, we're pushing each other in creating the best possible work that we can, and that's amazing. And then, once Ike sings to Key, I call Key and I said, hold on, Key. I said, here.
Uh-oh, secrets are being revealed right now.
I say, this is the feeling. This is where we're going with it. This is the mood. And he's like, oh, I got you. And then now me and Key knows now, me and him, he comes, he sends me music. And then I say, let's do this. And he takes it back. And then he sends it to Ike. Because Ike, being a music-driven guy, he likes it immediately. He's like, oh, that's cool. And I'm like, yeah, but we can't use it for this part because of this part, and we need more here. So it's a great collaboration. It's a lot of fun working together. Yeah.
So Key, let's talk about how you interpret all that.
Well, that's part of that is pretty much the process. I will say, starting this particular production, once we got to this actual show, the whole discovery moment at the very beginning of the program, when the society comes together and it's underground society and everything's happening there. It was pretty funny because when Ike sings, I'm internalizing all the percussion parts, and then he will interject some melodies and some different things like that. But the best part about that is I understand the intent because of the rhythmic complexities that are underneath that. And that is kind of one of the things that's so unique to drum corps, is how we have all of those pieces that work together. I mean, there's so many voices in drum corps anyway, and it's like, okay, I understand the feel. One of the funny things is, and maybe I'm going to reveal it here, but Ike's initial singing to me was at 240 beats a minute. And so
Lord.
I slowed it down to 200 beats a minute, which is hilarious because, people don't understand. I mean, it was insane. It's already insane anyway, because we have the drums up front, the djembes establishing time there. Then it has to shift over with crazy math over to the pit that's off center, and the bass is there. And then if that wasn't stupid enough, we ended up having all of the horn players enter from the four corners at 200 beats a minute.
Yeah.
Well,
Start the show.
So how do you guys even
see that? I don't know how we do it.
How do you sleep at night with, like, I don't know, I would be having nightmares continuously. Okay, so there's a bunch of questions that come out of that.
I will tell you, it looks really cool. So I sleep at night. How Ike and Darren and Tim sleep at night, that's very different. That's on their show.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I would say, and I think that's really the key component to what makes this version of the Mandarins so different, so unique, just like you were mentioning before, is we use such an understanding of what the visual moments are going to be, and whatever we need to do to make that happen, we're willing to do it. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. It's like, okay, hey, you know what? Boy, the trumpets are staged beautifully right here. That's not how we wrote it, but let's go in and make that a moment there, because we've got all of these things that are coming together. And that is kind of how we draw the eye. We've changed several things in our show that were not our original concepts, but because once Peter lays everything out and just gives us this nice canvas to work from, sometimes it's like, you know what, we need a little more red over here, so let's do that. And that's where I think we just have so much fun with coordination, because it is an organic process that grows and grows and grows. And every time I come in, it just crystallizes even more. And I'm just glad our process allows us to kind of get there by San Antonio. And most
You
of
know,
that's
that-
because everybody on the design team worked so hard to have that show done 2 weeks before our first contest.
And I would tell you a little secret that me and Peter do when we're staging the drum corps is if we visually, if we're going somewhere and we see that something could happen, we'll stage it. And then we'll tell them like, oh, we couldn't get them somewhere else. So now they have to rewrite the music to make that fit. But
Here's the thing, they think it's a secret, but it's not. We know what they do. But I think what's happened is Mario's done a really good job. Mario and Peter Beckhart, the drill writer, have done a really good job at kind of, and all of us from a team standpoint have been entrusted in them to say, okay, look, this is where we're going, this is what happened, this is the moment. And even though it wasn't necessarily a written moment, Key is really fast with saying, I'll say, Key, can we make this and change this melody here and make this trumpet? And you know, that same day, getting the music back and giving it to the brass and making it happen. There's a lot of things about the team that in drum corps we do that you would never be able to do anywhere else. Like how fast we are able to communicate with each other and get things back. The fact that Key and Brian and Darren Vanderpool and all these people, including Peter Beckhart from a drill standpoint, literally, I call him on this one day and he's doing Blue Devils and all this other stuff. I'm like, hey Peter, tomorrow night, can I have this change in the closer? He's like, I'm on tour, right? I'm like, yeah, man, can I get this? And it happens. And then Mario looks at it and Mario's like, yo, you're killing me, Ike. And then he does all the work to it. And then Key does the music to it. And it just happens. And I think that's probably the best part about the team and the Mandarins right now is the fact that we trust each other enough now, but we don't have to wait 4 or 5 days for one person's approval to make things happen. And I think that is the more we're together and the team's together, the more that evolves. I think the better you're going to start seeing the drum corps as it grows up and kind of comes into this, what we call adulthood of drum corps.
To tag on to what he was saying, what motivates us is not our creativity with each other. I mean, that's the fun part. But bottom line is we've got 154 people that are waiting for us. And we want to make sure that there is no hesitation, no bump in the schedule where, oh, wow, we've got to wait. And maybe this works, maybe it doesn't. We like to be instantaneous with turnaround on anything creative, that especially a structural change like that. Super important to do. So we do try to jump on that because, it is about them. We want them to have the most success as possible.
So when I have a couple specific things, when Ike sings to you, are you recording this?
Well, yeah, sometimes we do. I would have to get approval to send some of those out, right?
No, I'm not.
No, what's
I just
funny,
wondered if you remembered.
So Ike and I started about 5 years ago at Ayala together. He was there and he brought me in. And so part of the process was we wanted to kind of avoid having to deal with, too many copyrights. And so he said, I kind of want a flavor like this. And he would sing it to me on the phone. And then we realized it's like, okay, wait a minute. And I would get another recording device and would hold it up to the phone and everything. It was like, wait, why are we doing this? You could just do it on your the memo button there. And so now we have that, and which is really good because he will come up with, oh goodness, there must have been 4 versions of the opener in terms of, and basically he's improvising a lot. It's like, this is the feel, and I kind of feel it like this, and he'll give me that. And so I'll have maybe 4 different versions of it, and I'm going, this little segment works really well, and it'll go to here. And then, and I think it's, again, really important that I take what he does and know, okay, this is brass, and that's going to be percussion there that he's doing. But we need to have a pretty strong development. And so maybe we layer in the brass that's doing some of these other percussive kind of things as we build to an impact point, for instance. And so it's a crazy way, but absolutely it is just, there's an emotional connection to our music writing process. And that's what really works for us.
No, there's no doubt. But you probably don't realize how ridiculously superhuman that is for a composer or arranger to that's amazing to me. Like, I mean, I know you're crazy talented, but God Almighty, that just drives me crazy. That's amazing.
What's even crazier is that on top of that, I'm over here calling him and telling him about emotions and feelings and the drive,
Yeah.
and then he's like, well, yes, 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 yes. And there is times, when I get the music and I'm like, no, this is not it. And then I get so mad. He's like, well, why? And I said, well, you should have sang it to me then,
Yeah.
But it works. But I think he does Ike gets pretty close to the mood to Key and the rhythm, and Key does a fantastic job of putting the emotion behind it. Which to me is so important. And we had about 3 rewrites of the ballad, Key.
Yeah, 4.
Yes. That's another story that we ought to touch on here.
Yeah, when he sent it to me, I told him and I said, it's not hitting me the way it was intended to hit me. And then I talked him through it, So then we ended up doing the Truman Show with the Rain in Your Black Eyes by Ezio Bosso take on it, because I was like, this is how it needs to feel. It needs to just pull me in. And he's like, okay, I got you. So by the 4th try, we got it. And it was like, yes, that's it, So it's great. He's amazing at putting that emotion behind so that we're able to get the performers to fully maximize and develop those ideas.
Tim, one of the challenges that we had this year is, I would say, Ike, what are we around 60% original music in the show?
Yeah.
Something like that. I mean, we use On the Shoulder of Giants, and that's kind of probably the biggest chunk. And then the Truman Sleeps, that was really fun because it was going to be Rain in Your Black Eyes, and which was in 5/4, and the Philip Glass is in 4/4. But Mario wanted it to really pull because that's a very tender moment in our program. And so Brian Ungaray brought the Truman Sleeps to the table. And so we started to try to create that same feeling, which it's almost the same thing. If you listen to the two, I would encourage you to go on YouTube and check it out. Yeah. But the interesting part is that it needed to go somewhere. So we're trying to make those moments where we're using arrangements and then hit the original material, and you can't tell where the original and the arrangement come in and out. And I mean, that was our goal, and to me that's the challenge, and trying to make that to where it just doesn't sound like, oh wow, we just dropped the needle and here's a new idea. And we got hit on that a little bit, a couple of little transitions early on, but that's why we have the judges there. I mean, they need to evaluate and go, they're right. We've got to make this little 16 count thing connect better. So that is, to me, that's the biggest challenge, doing what we do in terms of, our process between the 3 of us and then Brian and Darren. To me, that's kind of the easy part. It's just trying to make everything so seamless that you can't tell what's arranged and what's original.
Well, and I think that the fact that you're creating the process you're describing makes perfect sense to me after having seen the show, because what I'm seeing and what I'm hearing is so melded together. It makes so much sense. It's taking me to that place. If it didn't sound like that or didn't look like that, you know what I mean? Like it completely works together. Like the stacked skull things, like I was creeped out from the get-go. Like, I mean, totally, and then I thought, like, you see pictures of those like under Paris or whatever, you're in the tunnels. Like, so I totally got that immediately. And I also am very claustrophobic. So I was a little wigged out, which congratulations. I want to ask you, I've got to back up. Beginning of the show, drums over here, pit over here, horn line coming from 4 corners and 200 beats a minute. That's crazy. How do you make that work? Like, can you just, I don't want to get off on a long explanation, but like, how does the timing possible? Is it drum majors conducting different from each other? Or like, can you talk about how you make that work? Because I hope you're getting credit for how ridiculous that is.
Well, no, of course we're not getting credit because it looks easy. It's like
Well,
anything, a gymnast that does backflips, you're like, well, of course they're gymnasts, not realizing how difficult it is. Actually, it's still a process right now. Darren and I were in the Darren percussion captain here and I were in multiple conversations about the drum majors and how we utilize them. What ends up happening right now, and the way we're able to bring it together, is the front ensemble, believe it or not, is the time. So what happens is the drum major to our right, to the right, in front of the front ensemble, he gets the time from the front ensemble, and his hands are right with the front ensemble. The drum major all the way to the left of the field, he has to be a 16th note ahead of the drum major to the right. And then the two backfield drum majors have to be an 8th note ahead of what the front drum major is doing because the brass is so far backfield. So what happens is you're seeing all these timing things on the field happening. And as the brass comes in, now the two back drum majors have to become a 16th. The left drum major now has to become the time, while the right drum major in front of the front ensemble now has to be slightly behind to not push the front ensemble ahead of the brass once the brass comes in. Once the brass hits and comes in, at that point, now the two majors are for about 16 counts conducting together, while the two back drum majors are still a 16th ahead. And then once the entire drum corps comes together, the two front majors are together for 8 counts, and then because they used to split, the left drum major has to be a 16th note ahead of the right drum major, which is right in time with the front ensemble. And that's, it was all the math in that, yeah.
You got to stop, or I'm going to. You got to stop this, or I'm going to need a cocktail because this is.
Yeah.
That's great. Okay, so those of us that watch the show from here on out, I'm going to sort of take note of what a trick that is. So there's like a Cirque du Soleil quality to this. There's all these bungee things going on. Like, where did that idea come from? Because that's so interesting, and it happens in all kinds of different ways. Like, where did that come from?
Well, between me and Mario, honestly, it was, I went to Key, and I love those towers in Key. You know how in Cirque du Soleil, they're really tall towers, and we had talked about those wagons that we have even being trampolines at one point. The only way to get on and off of them would be trampoline on and off of them. But we ran into some costs to do that because there's a budget, and we stayed with the bungees. The cool thing that we wanted to do was, from a theatrical standpoint, was to create people coming down into this place, and we wanted to, originally the concept was the hanging of these people that come in, because we were kind of gesturing towards that throughout the show, but through our concept and design, we've kind of changed that a little bit, but I still feel like the meaning for all of that is coming down into that subterra, space, and really elevating from the top to the bottom, and kind of bringing that down to where the rest of the tribe or the rest of the kids are as well. So
that makes perfect sense.
Well, I think it has to do a lot too with the three-dimensionality on the field. I feel like we've seen a lot of props, and you go up and you go down, or you stay on top or you stay on the bottom, and nothing really keeps flowing and has that continuity of things. So we felt like once it said, let's put, well, we're gonna do the trampolines, and it was like, well, it's gonna cost us. Okay, well, let's do bungees then. He was like, fine, we'll do bungees, because it was a little cheaper, but just that quality of bouncing and climbing and going up and down and being able to do circular things, and I don't know, it was interesting. It was interesting to me for the flow and for the pacing, and just that three-dimensionality of things, and not just always seeing somebody go up a ladder and going back down. It just had that feel to it, and it was always going down, going underneath, subterra. So it intellectually it made sense to us. and aesthetically, it definitely hit us where we wanted it to.
So is there a certain way you've been teaching them to move? Like, are you teaching them, like, is there a lot of crouching, or like, I remember the effect, but I don't remember the specifics. Like, how did you interpret that part?
There's you mean while on the bungees or when they're marching, or like
Like throughout the whole production, there's a sense of it being underground, and how are you accomplishing that through the movement?
Well, we just do a lot of modern, and we do some contemporary stuff, and a lot of it is just contractions, getting the core to really fully understand how to contract their core. Because a lot of people, or I guess a lot of core members, I can say, can make the shape, but not necessarily know how to use the musculature in their body to really engage, and exhale and give you that contraction. So we do a lot of, that marching down in C shape and coming back up and doing a lot of that contraction stuff. So it definitely does, is taking you inside, it's more internally, bringing you in more towards our production, inside, subterra, underground.
Yeah. like it's, I don't know, like I just, it's quite an accomplishment, like, I mean, like the to me, like, you're taking me to a place, and that's hard. Like, it's hard to do that, and I clearly was in a place, I understood where I was, and I couldn't wait to see what was going to end. And am I right that the endings are continuing to change potentially?
Yes, it's a continual evolution from an original thought to now a new thought to hopefully something that is going to feel finalized. Because right now for me, and even what we put together, it still doesn't feel like it's final. Like the brass is big and all these things, and it feels like it's almost there. But I'd say within these next couple of days, we'll be able to kind of put the cherry on top of that whole thing, especially moving into the next regional.
Well, the intent of our ending was literally the first conversation we had about this design when we started. But because it was supposed to be super graphic, and it was supposed to just kind of make you extremely uncomfortable and not really know how to feel. It has raised some red flags throughout, people or places. So we're trying to figure out how to really fulfill and maximize that moment right now, and do it in a tasteful way that everybody gets to enjoy it. Because I will tell you, when we did our final ending that we were supposed to do, even one judge was like, "Can somebody please tell me if he's okay? Is he okay?" We were like, "Yeah, it's theater, of course, he has the harness on, but it was that real, and it was really, really cool, because that was our intent from the beginning, of the design process, to hang somebody and literally carry them off the field. But
we're looking at we're just looking at and now we're just looked at it, okay, well, how making sure that we're able to speak to all audiences and making sure that whole thing comes across really well. So
well, and listen, if you're trying to creep me out, you did it. So like I mean, like you already. I mean,
there are levels beyond what you've seen, Tim.
Okay. I will have to bring. I'll have to bring
you don't want to be up in the mind
animal with me to India, apparently. But no, but I do think it's awesome that you're pushing the. I said this before, but I think it's awesome you're pushing the envelope. You're taking me to a place that nobody else has taken me. I think it's super interesting, and I don't want to get off. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I asked you this when I saw you in San Antonio, because that is the brightest lantern in the history of mankind. Like that, he came out with that thing, and I mean, I didn't miss it. Is it like 1,000 light bulbs?
Man.
Like,
yeah, it's funny because I knew when I told Mario, I'm like, Mario, we have to have this lantern. He says, no, everyone's gonna see him without it. I'm like, no, we gotta do it. So he's like, okay, just go do it. So I went around and I had to find literally the brightest, smallest flashlights I could. So I was able to go out and find four, I think it was like 1,300 luminant individual lights that I just pretty much glued together, put them in a big tape thing, put it inside of it, drilled it, and when it came on, it was during the daylight and it was way bright. And then I accidentally touched the top of the light and forgot that light actually creates a lot of heat and can burn you. So in doing so, that's when I told the kid, like, yo, don't ever touch the top of these things when they've been on, because you're definitely going to get some second, third degree burns when that thing comes on. But it's definitely bright.
It's really bright. Like, I think, airplanes could land like that.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, but I love that because I didn't miss him. So Mario, I hate to say it, I think Ike was right about that. Like, that lantern, and I like, there he is, and here he.
Don't ever say that. Don't ever say that. No. The idea was I wanted him in a lantern, and I wanted him with fire.
Yeah.
It wasn't that we
tried the fire.
Bright. We needed something bright for him, but I felt like the lantern, whatever, something different. But when he got those LED, I was like, all right, whatever, that works.
Yeah. I did try. Yeah, I did try to get the fire, and I had the little thing that flutters, and I put light on it, and it just didn't work, man. The tiki torch light just didn't work, so that's kind of where that came from.
I think the lantern is super cool, and I think that character is very cool, and I don't know, it's a very unique, interesting thing, and like I said, I love that you guys are bringing this crazy, weird, dark, creepy, unique vibe to the activity. Like, we need it, like, if we can't have the Velvet Knights, let's have the Mandarins creeping me out. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of how I feel.
Well,
I think the best way to think about it is like the Addams Family. You know what I mean? So you love to watch it, and it's a little weird and creepy, but it's cool.
Well, one of the things too that I think that we were doing this year was a sense of realism, and that's kind of where it boils down to it. Like, when you have the fabric and it's supposed to be fire, and you're just going, yeah, that's fabric with a light on it, as opposed to the intensity of that particular light. Same thing with the ending. It was too real. I mean, the one that we originally were going to do is just way too real, and so, but we still have to have something that's equally as real at the end of the season, and that's the challenge. How do we do it? How do we make it happen? And so, more to come.
Well,
it's coming.
We're all going to be on pins and needles on the way to Indy to see what it ends up being. But I can tell you, from my point of view, it's mission accomplished if you just play that like that glorious last musical phrase and those flags across the back. It is so beautiful. So to me, that's an exclamation point already. If you want to add a second one, more power to you. But yeah. I do think the show is remarkable, and it's obviously it's being very successful, and I think it's being rewarded well. And I think you guys have done an amazing job. And so I just want to encourage you. I guess it's my main thing today. I just want to encourage you, like, don't shy away, like, go for it. Like, I love that you guys are on this crazy track, and this bizarre system, a process that you have that is so uniquely you guys and works so well of how you're sharing information and communicating. I love hearing about that because, the more you get to know each other and feel comfortable with each other, the more those kinds of things can happen.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
All right. So final thoughts from each of you. Key, I'll let you go first. Any final thoughts about all this before we go?
Oh, goodness, I just really appreciate the people that dig in a little more to the depth of the show and the complexities that we have. One of the things that we struggled with it early on was like content number. I'm going, I think we have a ton of content, and once they start to understand, again, if you make it sound easy, you've kind of taken care of that. But I think the overall production has a ton of depth, a ton of content, visually, musically, thematically, and I think it's paced well all the way beginning to end. So hopefully that we get that kind of reward at the very end of the season.
Absolutely. Mario, final thoughts from you.
Well, I hope all of you just love subTerra as much as we do. you know,
Yeah.
and you take something from it, or you find there's a lot of hidden little things throughout the show that mean something else. So if anybody seems to catch that through a nuance or through a body stuff, like that'd be pretty cool. I'm not gonna tell you what it is, but
All
look
right.
into it. A
All
lot of
right.
little things that were written in there to mean something else. Especially like even in one of our transitions of all the vocals, there's things being said in there that if you listen closely, you're gonna giggle a little bit.
All right. I love details in a show. That's awesome. Ike, what about you?
Yeah, there's a lot of jewels in there that you're going to have to take some time to kind of look at a couple of times. But I would say just to anybody that watches this and to people in general, it would be great if we could come and watch these shows and shows like this without coming to it with already thinking that they know what it's going to be or what it's supposed to be. And I think that that is the biggest challenge that we have with our organization is right now we have a lot of people that come to watch this, and they're coming to it with a sense of I know what this is supposed to be. I know how it's supposed to be. Kind of like if you go in and you watch the Avengers, you don't know. You go in to receive it. You go in to look at the creativity and be a part of it and be in it. And I feel like at some point it would be great if people would be able to come, everyone be able to come and just enjoy it the way you would enjoy a great movie and leave and then talk about it, you know, and know that there's a lot of hidden treasures and jewels in our show that if someone really takes the time to go through it all, they're going to see them all. It's a lot of fun stuff that's in there that's kind of, I won't say is purposefully hidden, but there's a lot of things in there that kind of talk about other subjects and other things that are happening throughout that. And now the next level down in subTerra, the subculture of what we do in drum corps. So
Yeah,
I think that's a lot of fun too.
yeah. I'll tell you one thing. One thing. In the show, there's a small part where it hints next year's show already.
So
All right, then.
have fun with it. Have fun with it.
All right. There's a discussion waiting to happen. All right. So by the way, have you guys considered having a Mandarins fundraiser, letting fans jump up and down on the bungees on the props? Like, I think you could make a lot of money. I don't know if you could handle the
we could lose.
lawsuits.
Yeah, or we could lose a lot of money if somebody falls. See, that's just kind of
All
where
right.
that is.
It's a terrible idea, but I do think it would. It looks really fun to me.
Yeah,
It is a lot of fun.
It looks
a lot
really
of
fun.
core. Yeah, a lot of body core strengthening that has to go on for that. It's fun.
All right. Well, guys, this has been awesome. Thank you so much for taking time to talk to me. I know how busy you are. I'm happy to get to share this conversation.
All right, Tim.
No,
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. It's always a pleasure.
Find other interviews and videos from top DCI designers, instructors, and marchers, behind-the-scenes videos, interviews, and podcasts from winter camps, spring training, traveling during the season, and performances, all at marchingartseducation.com/DCI-2019. The Marching Roundtable is proud to be an official media partner of Drum Corps International.